Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, solve this problem. It is FCFS. It is finish time for P1, P2, and P3. It is finish time for P1,
3,
P2,
9,
and P3,
13.
30. Turnaround time is turnaround time. Finish time minus
Arrival time.
arrival time. For P1 is
3,
3,
7, 9,
9. And wait time for P1,
0,
0,
1,
1, and
5.
8. How to calculate wait time? Turnaround time minus burst time. Turnaround time minus burst time. Burst time is CPU time required to complete that particular process. Now we have to implement such algorithm. We have to accept number of processes from user, and for each process you have to accept arrival time and burst time. And for each process you have to compute finish time, turnaround time, wait time, and at the end you have to compute average turnaround time and average wait time. So how to do that? You have to implement it with Java. Suppose I want to write a class process. What should be the variables or functions for this class process? For every process, what I want, yes, Shreya, we just now solved a simple FCFS problem for 3
Process
processes.
name, average time, burst time.
So for every time, that is arrival time, burst time, then wait time, finish time, completion, turnaround time, we have to define fields. So one row here, one row define each process, right? So for every process, we should have a process name or number, whatever. Then process arrival time, burst time, finish time, turnaround time, wait time. So this should be defined for every process. So what P1 is nothing but object or instance of that class process. Process is my class, and these are the objects. And I can have many objects, right? So for class process, let's define integer process ID, PID. Or PID can be index. No need to define PID or P name. You can accept P name also, string variable P1, P2, P3, depends upon you. Then arrival time, integer, float, or double. Here we'll assume that all variables are integer variables. All times are in integer time. So arrival time, you can use any variable name. Then integer burst time. These things you have to accept from the user. PID, arrival time and burst time. And rest of the things you have to compute by your own, means in a program. Next is finish time, then turnaround time, and then wait time. And average wait time and average turnaround time is at the end when you compute for all processes wait time, average and turnaround time, then at the end you have to compute average wait time. So average wait time and average turnaround time should not be the part of process class. So process class should be this only. And what should be the functions or any constructor you need here for a class process? You need a constructor, right?
Yes, ma'am. To initialize AT and BT.
To initialize AT and BT, we need a constructor. Constructor should have same name as that of a process, and we are using default constructor here. For AT, we assign value 0 and BT. This is just initialization. Whenever you create object, AT and BT are initialized to 0. And then you can have parameterized constructor or accept function to initialize AT, BT and PID. So here either use accept function or use constructor. Here I'm using accept function. Note that by default access specifiers are default. That means all the classes in the same package can access these functions and variables. So void accept function, here I ask user to enter process ID system.out.println and ask user to enter process ID and accept values from user. So this is for process ID as well as arrival time and burst time. And you will accept these values in these particular variables, which are defined as a class variable or instance variable, right? So this is your class, and you can have a display function which can display these processes. So this is a class. And in main, in another class, now this is my class, say FCFS assignment. Here I'm using public static void main. I'm just writing a pseudocode, not giving you the complete code. So I have to create object or array of objects. So this class is there. I have a class process and with function accept and constructor, default constructor. Now when I want to create a structure like this, then only one process will not solve my problem. I have to create array of processes, array of objects. So first thing is I have to ask user how many processes in a queue, and then accept these processes in variable say n, and for I is equal to 0, I is less than n, I plus plus for every process. Now what we are doing for every process, we have to create an object for that process with a constructor and call the accept function to accept value of arrival time and burst time. How to create array of objects?
Class name, that is process, then square bracket is equal to new process.
You
and
should
size.
have you should give some name here, no?
Process P of 5.
So
P of
suppose
3.
whatever
P of n. N.
So here you are just creating an reference. Now for every n, you can create here array is equal to new process. Say 5 or 3. Here you are just creating references. Objects are not yet created, right? Now for each P of I, if you remember array of objects concept or go through it, for each P of I, you have to use new keyword, new process. That means array of objects is nothing but array of references or pointers for each object. And now for each reference, you are attaching a new object. So P of I, you are creating a new process. It will create a process object with arrival time and burst time 0. Then for each process P of I, you have to call accept function. So it will accept PID, arrival time and burst time from user. Now you have to compute wait time, finish time and turnaround time. So first thing is how to compute finish time. So you called accept function and you accepted arrival time and burst time for each process. So you have this data in your class. So with this information, how you are going to compute finish time? Or that function can be the function of class also, compute finish time or compute function. You can have void compute. For every process, you have to compute finish time. So finish time of first process is, if it is arrived at 0, it is FCFS algorithm, so it will be scheduled first. So whatever the burst time of first process, it will be the finish time of that process, right? So for P1, P of 0, finish time is equal to, if it is process P0, finish time is equal to burst time. And for rest of the processes, finish time is equal to burst time of current process plus finish time of previous process. 6 plus 3, that is 9. 4 plus 9, that is 13. Right? And once you get finish time, then it is easy to calculate turnaround time. It's a simple maths. Finish time minus arrival time, and wait time, turnaround time minus burst time. And whenever you calculate turnaround time, you should keep one variable by adding all the turnaround times, 3 plus 7 plus 9, and then divided by n, that is total number of processes, to get average turnaround time and average wait time. So the algorithm goes like this. This should be your output finally. Sample output. First, enter number of processes. Any value you should able to accept. It should not be hard coded to 3, 4 or 5. Suppose you are accepting 5 processes. For every process, accept arrival time and burst time. So this will come 5 times. P of I dot accept. Right. Enter arrival time, enter burst time. And you have to compute completion time, that is finish time, turnaround time and wait time, and you have to display in this tabular form. And Gantt chart, you have to show sequence of process execution, P1 slash P2, P3, P4, and then compute average turnaround time and average wait time. So first step is create a class for different time periods for each process. You have to use constructors to initialize average arrival time, burst time and finish time to 0. In main program should be in another class. Don't write main in the same class. Accept number of processes, then accept arrival time, burst time for each process. Calculate finish time. Finish time I just explained you. For first process, burst time is equal to finish time. And from rest of the processes, finish time of previous process plus burst time of current process is finish time of current process. That you can calculate. And after calculating finish time, you can calculate turnaround time, which is finish time minus arrival time, and wait time, which is turnaround time minus burst time. Then you can calculate average wait time and average turnaround time, display result in tabular form, and display sequence of processes, that is Gantt chart. You have to use array of object concept and use proper data structures if needed. Any queries about this implementation?
Ma'am, when we will call the compute function, that is for calculating the finish time. So
you
we
can
will
calculate
pass
finish
that.
time. You can calculate finish time, turnaround time, and wait time here itself.
Yes, ma'am. So we will write that function in that class, and when we will call it from the main, we will pass that I, that is the the pointer that I, which we are incrementing from I equal to 0 to I equal to n. That we will pass to the compute function, right?
That will be called, this function will be called per particular process. We are going to call it with I. P of
Yes,
I
ma'am.
dot compute. So
P
no
of
need
I
to
dot
pass,
compute.
no need to pass I. Because
Then, ma'am,
I
how we
process,
will,
you need previous
then
process.
how we will come?
You need previous process to finish time, right?
Yes, ma'am. So BT of I plus BT, FT of I minus 1. So I was
Minus 1.
asking
You
that.
need I minus 1 BT.
So for that.
So that is
Is
your
it correct,
call.
ma'am?
Yeah, it is correct. I was expecting the same question from your side. So in compute, you have to compute finish time, which is equal to finish time of previous process plus burst time of current process. Right? Finish time of
Yes, ma'am.
previous process. And that you have to pass here. So suppose integer ft minus 1. What? 1. And this ft1 is of previous process that you have to pass this variable and compute finish time. And if finish time is there, you can calculate turnaround time, which is equal to finish time minus arrival time. And you can compute wait time, which is equal to turnaround time minus burst time. This is how you are going to compute it. And you should have a variable which will add this turnaround time and wait time in it. So think whether you want to write this function in a class or you should write this function in a main here itself. That is your call. And if you want to write it in class, then you need to retain these values, turnaround time and wait time for every process, because you at the end you have to add these values to compute average turnaround time and average wait time. Or you can directly write here itself. Check if I is equal to
Ma'am, actually the doc is not visible, the Word document.
sorry, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
If value of I is 0, then finish time P of I dot finish time is equal to burst time. If I is equal to 0. Otherwise, else for rest of the I is equal to 1 to n, P of I dot finish time is equal to P of I minus 1 dot finish time plus burst time, P of I dot burst time. You can write this. Here you compute finish time, and then in compute function, you just compute turnaround time and wait time. Once finish time is there, you can compute turnaround time and wait time. And in the same for loop, you can compute average wait time and average turnaround time at the end of for loop. FCFS is very simple algorithm to implement because we are not considering any priorities. Processes as arrived and they are getting scheduled. So to compute finish time, you won't need any other data structure. When even Gantt chart is not required or a ready queue is not required here. But for next assignments, you need all those data structures. And we are going to use same class. If you're creating this class will be used for all the type of algorithms, SJF, SRTF, and round robin. First step is just try to implement simple FCFS with arrival time. We are going to implement it with arrival time. And your output should look like, just I have explained you with this slide. Sample output should look like this. You have to display in tabular form, and this Gantt chart is must, and average wait time and average turnaround time at the end. And still you start implementing, and if you have any queries, we'll discuss in the next session. Okay. So let's stop this discussion here and we'll go back to our memory management topic. Any queries about FCFS implementation? I'm sharing with you memory management presentation. Slides are visible.
Yes, ma'am.
So in the previous session, we started with memory management. We have seen two important concepts in previous session: logical address and physical address. What is logical address and physical address? So logical address is generated by CPU. It is also referred as virtual address, and physical address is address seen by memory management unit. We have seen what is the role of memory management unit. It has to map this virtual addresses to physical addresses. We have also seen the term swapping. We have backing store, that is high speed secondary memory, which is used to store the images or replicas of current executing process which are not able to store in main memory because of space issues. Such processes are swapped out on backing store, and the current executing processes, the processes want to execute with high priority, they can be swapped in main memory. And note that main memory, some space is always occupied by operating system. Then we have started with memory management strategies. First strategy is contiguous allocation. There are two types of strategies: contiguous allocation and non-contiguous allocation. In contiguous allocation, we assume that a program is loaded completely in a single slot. It is not divided, or it is not loaded at whatever the memory available. The program should be loaded continuously in available memory. If the memory is not available, that program has to wait. So for protection of operating system for user process and protecting of one user from other user process, there is protection mechanism which is implemented in hardware. There are two registers. One is called limit register and one is called relocation register. Limit register will decide, suppose this part is allocated for one process, this process should not cross the boundaries. The starting address is relocation register and the last address is limit register. So process address should not go beyond limit, as well as when we translate a address, logical address to physical address, it should be within this range. This is how contiguous allocation takes place. We have seen operating system maintains information about allocated partitions and free partitions, and free partitions are called as whole. So whole is block of available memory, and whole of various sizes are scattered through memory. Any queries about this previous session? Can we move on? We are going to decide how to allocate a memory to a particular process. I'm going to start my camera now. So how to satisfy a request of size n from a list of free holes. So assume that we have a memory and there are available, and we have processes which are requesting a memory, and we have to allocate these processes to the memory available holes. And these are few strategies: first fit, best fit, worst fit. There is some more like next fit. In our syllabus, we are going to cover these three strategies: first fit, best fit, and worst fit. So we are going to take this example. So here, can you see, we have 4 processes, and in this bracket, this is the size of process. P1 size is 100K, P2 size is 250K, P3 size is 450, and P4 size is 380K. And this is our main memory. Operating system is taking some part of memory, and these are pre-holes, size of pre-holes. So we have to allocate these processes in these pre-holes with various strategies. So let me start the camera. P1 100K, P2, board is visible? P3 450K, and P4 380K. And this is our main memory. I will draw memory here. So OS 400K, then 300K, 500K, and 100K. Note down the size of processes: P1 100K, P2 250K, P3 450, and P4 380K. So first algorithm is first best fit. Okay, we'll take first fit. As the name says, first fit means it will try to allocate. What is first fit? Allocate first hole. Note that, allocate first hole that is big enough. First hole that is big enough to accommodate that process. So we have P1 with, what is the size of P1? 100K. So memory management unit will search this process pre-blocks from starting from this block. This is block 1, block 2, block 3, and block 4. So it finds that block 1, which is 400K, is big enough to accommodate this process 100K. So 100K process will be allocated here. So this process P1 will be allocated here, 100K. And what about this 300K? It is wastage, right? So P1 is allocated here. Next process arrived. What is the requirement of next process? 250K. So memory management unit again starts searching from first block, which is already allocated for P1. Then it will search a second block is 300K. It is large enough to accommodate this 250K. So this 300K will be allocated to P2. size is 250K, and this remaining 50K will be wastage. Then next process P3, size of process P3 is 450K. Size of process P3 is 450K, and next block is 500K, which is big enough to accommodate this process 450K. So this block is allocated, B3 is allocated to process P3 of size 450K. And next process is P4. Requirement of P4 is 380K. 380K. But we didn't have block of that size. So P3, P4 has to wait till P1, P2, P3 or any processes which are in a memory completes their execution and leaves the memory. So there will be a free space, and then only P4 can be accommodated. So for first fit algorithm, P1 is allocated to block 1, P2 is allocated to block 2, and P3 will be allocated for block 3, and P4 has to wait. And this is called internal fragmentation. This is internal to that block, which is not allocated to any other process, because once a process is allocated to block, whether it is 550K, 10K, the block is allocated to that process. So it will use that block until it completes the execution and leaves that block. So this is the disadvantage of contiguous allocation. So this is first fit algorithm. Now what is best fit? First fit algorithm is clear? Yes.
Can you please explain process P2 once again?
Okay. So here we just have these blocks, and we have these processes with their request. So when process P1 arrived, a memory management unit will search from first block B1, B2, B3, B4, starting from block B1. And then first block is of 400K, which is big enough. Algorithm says it has to allocate first hole that is big enough. So while searching, it will search the first block, which is big enough. So 400K is big enough to accommodate 100K. So P1 is allocated to 100K. If first block is 50K, then it will search for next block. 50K is not able to allocate 100K process, right? So it will search for next block, which is big enough to accommodate that process. So P1 is allocated to 400K first block. Then next process is P2 with size 250K. Now first block is already allocated, so it will skip that first block, and it will check whether next block, which is 300K, is large enough to accommodate this process. Yes, requirement is 250K and available size is 300K. So P2 can be allocated to block B2. So this block is given to P2. Now when third process arrived with requirement 450K, block B1 is allocated, B2 is allocated. So it will check whether B3 is free or big enough to accommodate this process P3. If yes, then B3 is allocated to P3. Now when process P4 arrived, a requirement is 380K, but the available size is 100K. So P4 has to wait till any of these processes completes their execution and leaves the memory. That is your first fit algorithm. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now in case of best fit, next algorithm is best fit. Again, the blocks are of same size. Size of block is 400, 300, then 500 and 100. Now for best fit algorithm, what algorithm says? It allocates smallest large enough block. Smallest but large enough block means accurate size or slightly greater than this requirement of that particular process. So it has to find first it has to sort all the blocks depending upon the size, and then select the large enough block which can accommodate that process, but it is the smallest among those group. We'll see how. So if P1 arrived, requirement is 100K. So it will sort these blocks. So smallest block is 100K and it will check, can it accommodate P1? Yes, it can accommodate P1. So P1 is allocated here in block 100K. Then P2 arrived with requirement 250K. Now this block is already allocated. So out of these remaining blocks, it will sort these blocks, find smallest block and check whether this smallest block is large enough to accommodate this process P2. Now in this case, yes, 300K can accommodate 250K. So this block is allocated to process P2. Next process arrived is P3 with requirement 450K. Requirement of P3 is 450K. Now it has two blocks, 400K and 500K. It will sort these two blocks and check smallest block is 400K. Is it large enough to accommodate P3? No. Then it will check whether 500K is can accommodate 450K. Yes. So this block B3 is allocated to process P3. Next process arrived with requirement 380K. Next process arrived P4 with requirement 380K, and the block remaining, the pre-block is 400K. So this block can accommodate P4. So all the processes can execute in main memory and no process has to wait. This is called best fit algorithm. It will accommodate, it will allocate a block which is smallest block but large enough to accommodate that process. Is it clear? Best fit. So best fit algorithm, P1 is allocated to 100K, P2 is allocated to 250K, P3 is allocated to 450 and P4 is allocated to 380K. This is called best fit algorithm. Next algorithm is worst fit. Worst fit is exactly opposite to that of first fit. First fit finds smallest large enough block, and worst fit allocates largest hole to the incoming process. So suppose P1 is incoming process and it will sort these blocks in descending order and find out which is the largest block. Largest block is 500K. So P1 is allocated to the available from the available block, largest block. So P1 is allocated to 500K block. Then P2 is allocated to remaining three blocks, 400, 300 and 100K. So large enough block is 400K. So P2 is allocated here. Now for 450, next process arrived which is size is 450, but these two blocks are having less size than required size. So this cannot be allocated. And here next process P3 has to wait. Then P4 will ask memory management unit, let's try whether can I enter into the main memory. But even P4 cannot be allocated because these two blocks are not contiguous. They are at different memory locations, and this is 300K and this is 100K. 380K memory is free, but still we cannot allocate this process here because memory is not in a continuous fashion. So this fragmentation is called external fragmentation. This is called external fragmentation. The space that is wasted due to allocated process P2, what is size of P1? P1 size is 100K. And 400K memory is waste memory. So this is called internal fragmentation, internal to block. So there are two types of fragmentations, internal fragmentation and external fragmentation. Internal is within a block and external is, it is the free blocks which are scattered throughout the memory, but we cannot accommodate the process because these blocks are not in a continuous fashion. So as the name says, internal is internal to a block and external is free blocks, but not in a continuous manner to accommodate the process. So this is worst fit. P1 is allocated to 500K and P2 is allocated to 250K. Fragmentation, external fragmentation is total memory space exists to satisfy a request, but not contiguous. Here, this is block B1, B2, B3, and B4. Block B2 and B4 free, and size is 300 plus 100. So total 400K memory is free. But it cannot accommodate process P4, which requirement is just 380, because this memory is not in a continuous fashion. This is called external fragmentation. And what is internal fragmentation? Internal fragmentation is when allocated memory may be slightly larger than requested memory. So here P1, requested memory is 100K and allocated memory is 500K. So rest of the 400K, which is within a block, cannot be allocated to some other process. So this is called internal fragmentation. This size difference is memory internal to the partition or block, but not being used. So this is called internal fragmentation. We cannot reduce internal fragmentation. To reduce internal fragmentation, there are other methods we are going to study in the next lectures, that is segmentation and paging. To reduce external fragmentation, there is one solution which is called compaction. So have you ever tried fragmentation on your machine? Go to accessories, tools, and disk space to compact disk space. So what fragmentation will do? Fragmentation will do compaction. Compaction means shifting allocated blocks at one end and free blocks at other end. So it will shuffle memory contents to place all free memory together in a one large block. But this is not applicable to every operating system. It is possible if the operating system uses reallocation, which is dynamic. Note that it is not the mere putting one process from here to here. We have seen in a previous session, process is nothing but a memory machine language code which is getting executed, and for each machine language it is nothing but address of its instruction and data. So when you shift a process from one location to other location, you have to change address of every memory, every instruction, and every data, and there should not be any conflict. So this is possible if you have relocating or a dynamic relocating a relocation or dynamic loader which can change these physical addresses at runtime. Then this is possible. You can shift allocated processes at one end and free processes at other end, and you can merge those free blocks to create one large block which is large enough to accommodate this new process. So we have seen three algorithms: first fit, best fit, and worst fit, and fragmentation concept, which is external and internal fragmentation. Now you solve one problem.
Ma'am,
Yes.
internal fragment is also present in first fit, right?
Yeah, it is present in first fit, best fit, worst fit. If you are allocating a process to a block, the block, if the size of block is larger than the requirement of the process, so it is present in first fit, best fit, and worst fit. But in case of first fit, the size of internal fragmentation is minimum, and in worst fit, it is maximum.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, in the last case, in the worst fit, P4 was having 380K of requirement, and the
Correct.
block 3 was having 400K of memory free. So that P4 will be allocated over here, right, in B3 block, because P1 occupied only 100K.
Yeah, but that is internal to that block. We are not allocating, it is like, it is not shared basis room. That room is completely allocated to P1. That is the problem. That's why it is called internal fragmentation.
Okay.
Once a block or partition is given to that process, it is given. So this will be the limit, this size of limit register will be this. So another process is not allowed to enter into this block or area of the memory, which is allocated to P1. That's why we have to find another type of memory management strategy, how to reduce this internal fragmentation. For external fragmentation, there is a solution like compaction. So try to solve one more problem. So we have P1, size is 357K, P2 200K, sorry 210K, 4 processes, P3 468K, and P4 491K. And memory blocks. Now assume that there is operating system. So 200K block, then 400K, 600, 500, and 250K. So we have 5 blocks. Is it visible? Board is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to solve it with first fit, best fit, and worst fit. And try to check, is there any fragmentation? Can you accommodate all the processes in first fit?
No.
So for first fit, first process arrived P1 with the requirement 357K. So this is first large enough block. So P1 is allocated to block B2. Then P2 arrived with requirement 210. So first block is 200K, which is not large enough to accommodate 210. This is already allocated. So it will check third block 600K, which can accommodate P2. So P2 is allocated to 600K block. Then next process is P3, requirement is 468. Now it will start again. P1 cannot be, B1 cannot be allocated to P3 because the size is not large enough. B2 and B3 already allocated to P1, P2. So next process is block is B4 and requirement is 468 and available size is 500K. So it can accommodate this process P3. Next process is P4. So it will start from this. It is not large enough. It is not large enough. So P4 has to wait. P4 is waiting. Now in previous unit, we have seen that processes were waiting for CPU for their execution and ready queue. Here processes are waiting to enter into the memory. Memory is not free. So processes has to wait for the resources. So P4 has to wait till any of these process leave and make the free space so that P4 can execute. Now in best fit, can best fit accommodate all the processes?
Yes.
So P1 requirement is 357. So it will sort these processes and check 200K cannot accommodate 250 now. 400, yes. So P1 can be allocated here. So just sort blocks as per their sizes and start from smallest block to check whether this process is large enough or small enough to accommodate in that block. So 400K is allocated to P1. Next process P2, size is 210. So 200K cannot accommodate it, but 250K can accommodate this process P2. P3 requirement is 468 and we have these two blocks, but the smallest large enough block is 500K. So P3 is allocated here and P4 is allocated here. So no process has to wait, all processes can execute. Best fit is clear? And worst fit is exactly opposite to that of best fit. Here we are accommodating smallest large enough hole, and in worst fit we are accommodating largest hole, which is for that particular process. So in worst fit, P1 is allocated to 600K, which is the largest hole in the available hole block. P2 is allocated to next large hole, that is 500K. And now these two processes has to wait. There is one more algorithm which is called next fit. So it will call second large enough hole. It is what we can say version of best fit. In best fit we find smallest large enough hole. In next fit it find second large enough hole. This is not in our syllabus, just for your information. So these are the memory management strategies for contiguous allocation. Any queries about contiguous allocation? First fit, best fit, and worst fit, and fragmentation?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, in the previous example in worst fit, ma'am, for P3 the size is 468, but the first two blocks are contiguous and they can, so we can allocate P3 there, right?
Which example? Previous one or this current one?
This current example.
Let me share the screen with you. Yeah, but these are separate blocks. Here I'm showing it in a sequence, but in reality that can be at different locations. These are pre-blocks. We are just keeping the record of pre-blocks, but they may not be contiguous in actual memory locations.
Yeah, ma'am.
Just wait. So here, one extra block is there. I removed this block. So in which algorithm?
In
What was your
worst fit.
question? Worst fit. Okay. In worst fit, you have 400K and 200K blocks, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
But they are not large enough to fit this process 480, 468 and 491. Yes, because this is called external fragmentation. Memory is free to accommodate the process, but that is not in a contiguous fashion, or that is divided into different blocks.
Okay.
So
yes,
you should
ma'am.
be very clear what is external fragmentation and internal fragmentation. Here also, no, I have removed this. So in previous example also, there was a free memory. in previous example, here in worst fit, we have this 300K block and 100K block, right? And requirement is 380K. But still we are not able to allocate it because these are not in a continuous fashion. Even if they are listed one after another, say B1, B2, B3, B4, but they are different blocks, means operating system is just managing the data structure of pre-holes. Actual blocks may be at different locations. Try to solve some more problems on first fit, best fit, worst fit. In next session, we'll start with a non-contiguous allocation. And password for today attendance is first fit, F and it's capital, first fit. Sorry, it is best fit. Let me check whether it is first fit or best fit. Yes, it is best fit, B and F capital. Very few students solve the quiz, revision quiz of unit 2.